Mr. Holmes. Still have about 4.5 minutes. Kyle, are you there?
Yep.
Kyle's there. I know Bill Cox is going to join via phone call. Manchester's coming in.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Good. You, John?
Yeah, good.
Good evening, John. Good to see you.
Hi, Don.
Good afternoon.
John.
Andrew,
Yeah, what's up, Jim?
yeah, just to let you know, Chris Hamilton will be joining us. She's doing some connection things. So if she isn't, when we get to that, we'll just start with you and then go to her.
Yep, sounds good.
Hey, Jim,
Yes.
just to let you know, I'm gonna switch computers here in the next couple minutes.
Okay.
I just realized the reason for the darkness is I noticed there's a light that's out that should be shining on me to illuminate it, and it's not, so.
Okay.
Jim, it's clock. Maybe we can get started, get attendance.
Okay, I've got, I believe, let me just check one phone number that's called in.
Okay.
Give me one quick second here. Okay, yeah, and you won't see his name, but Bill Cox has called in. And by a phone, I cannot promote him to, he'll be able to speak, but he won't be showing up as a panelist. And I'm good.
You're good to go now?
I am.
All right. So it's 7:02. I'm gonna call the June 14th Planning Commission meeting to order. Secretary DeBalt, I'm looking around for him. Can you please take roll call?
Yes, sir. Schenkel,
Present.
Mucha,
Present.
Cox,
Here.
he's present, yeah. Manchester,
Present.
Hunt,
Present.
Newman,
He's coming in right now, I
you
believe.
just joined. Holmes,
Here.
Wortella,
Yes.
Here, present, and I'm in Brady Township.
and DeBalt, yes.
Thanks for that, Commissioner Wortella. You are outside of the village of Vicksburg. Please state if you are.
I am outside the village of Vicksburg.
Great, thank you.
This is Cox. I am too.
Cox is as well. Where are you at, Cox?
Yes. I'm in Schoolcraft.
Schoolcraft, okay. Thank you.
Jim, if you could do me a favor and pull up the agenda. I believe the next agenda item is approval of agenda. I don't have it in front of me and
I'm not gonna be able to leave it up the entire time, so.
I will pull it up when we migrate away from it. Agenda item number 3 is approval of agenda. I trust everyone's had time to review this agenda, and I will call for a motion for approval.
This is Wortella. I move that the agenda for the for the
June.
June 14th, 2021 commission meeting be approved as submitted.
Right, do we have support?
I will support it.
All right, motion from Wortella, supported by Hunt, and roll call, please, Secretary DeVault.
Schenkel,
Yes.
Mucha,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Manchester,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Wortella,
Yes.
DeBalt, yes.
Great. Agenda item number 4, approval of the last meeting's minutes from May 10th, 2021. Again, you should have received a packet via email. Trust you've had time to review that. And if they are to be approved, I'll call for a motion.
This is Manchester. Rick, I'll make an motion to approve the minute meetings for May as they're written.
Thank you. Support?
This is Cox. I support.
Great, thank you. Motion by Manchester, support by Cox, and roll call, please, Secretary DeVault.
Schenkel,
Yes.
Mucha,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Manchester,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Wortella,
Yes.
and DeBalt, yes.
Agenda item number 5 is public comment. We do have attendees. And so if you would like to make a comment, it is limited to 4 minutes. You can make a comment by pressing the raise hand button or *9 on your telephone if you're dialed in. And Jim will keep an eye on that for us.
Yep, I just clicked off, so I have I believe Jackie Coney wants, this is the time to talk on any agenda item. So if you wish to talk, we have Jackie Coney. The comments are limited to 4 minutes. So we will start with Miss Coney, and I'll push the button. Jackie, you should be able to talk now, hopefully.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I am wanting to talk about the discussion point, I guess that's part of the DDA agenda item about the infrastructure and the sprinkler stuff. I know at the last meeting or a different meeting, Jim had talked about the possibility of downtown buildings getting hooked into the, the system so that we could have sprinklers. And I'm so very much in favor of that. And I think that's a great plan that while the streets are, torn apart, that we go ahead and do that. And I also like the idea of the village in any way, shape, or form that they can to help support building owners to make that choice. Because certainly if one building, I think we would have a real problem in the village. And as we try to have a historic district and really keep a hold on our historic buildings, it's important that our buildings stay sound. So anything that the DDA or the village could do to help building owners with that process, because it isn't cheap and it's coming up quickly. So if it's $3,500 or $6,000 plus, you have to pay for the extra 3 feet to get to your building. I just think any help that anyone could give would be very useful and incent more people to do it. So I appreciate that you're having this conversation, and I hope you'll consider it.
Did we lose her?
Approve it, whatever it might be. Any help is would be appreciative. So I think that's all I really wanted to say. I'm just excited about the opportunity.
Thank you, Jackie. No, it came through on mine.
Mine too.
Okay. And any other citizen wishing to speak? We do have some are jumping around, but we have a couple other citizens. You can move your cursor and hit the raised hand at the bottom. Or if you're calling from a telephone, you could hit *9 to speak. We have Mr. Mike Frederick, Chairperson Schenkel, that I'm going to allow Mr. Frederick to speak. Mr. Frederick, you have the floor.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for taking the time to let me speak. In general, I am supportive of the fire suppression initiative throughout the downtown business area of the village. Couple reasons. Not only do we see what's going on in the city of Calumet, up in the UP and Lapeer, I think we have a lot of wonderful buildings in town that we need to try to figure out how to protect for potential fire, and the way to do that is obviously fire suppression. So for me, I've owned property in the village for a long time. We have quite an investment where we're at, and we applaud the village of Vicksburg, the DDA and the board for looking forward on trying to figure out how to put this together the most economical way it could possibly work for all the business owners. So that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Frederick. We have two other people. I don't know if Village President Frisbee wishes to speak or not. Okay. And I think one of our speakers is our building inspector. So that would cover everyone on the call, Mr. Schenkel.
Great, thank you. Okay, agenda item number 6 is the village manager report. Looks like we have an update on the downtown infrastructure project.
Yeah, real quick, if people were downtown today, they've seen where we've begun pulverizing the pavement on Prairie Street from Davis Street all the way to Main was going to be the goal. I was working on the budget this afternoon. I'm not quite sure. I think they were staying until they had it all completed. We have also on Davis Street found an improvement item that between Prairie and State Street, there is not a water main. The council has and we've approved moving forward placing a water main on Davis Street between Prairie and State Street, which will close that loop. We also added 38 residents onto, took them off a 1935 line that would have galvanized in it. So it met the lead requirements. We moved those residents off onto an appropriate 10-inch water main. So that's been completed and we'll move forward. And we ask that for everyone's patience as we move downtown. We will be given weekly updates. We meet every Tuesday at 10 a.m., which will be at tomorrow with the engineers and contractor. We'll then send out email updates to all the business owners downtown, giving the rest of this week's agenda and the start of next week, as well as posting on our social media pages. But we are going to hit the heart of this project now, and we're going to push through the downtown as quick and prudently as possible. So I'll pause there and answer any questions that a member might have before moving to the action items. I don't see any questions. If it's okay with you, Mr. Schenkel, if we move to number 7.
Please do.
7A, we put in their fourth quarter budget amendments. The budget is looking and tracking on pace. 2 of the items don't impact a budget amendment. We will have staff recode some debit items. So we're looking there, good there. But we have discussed item 7B, the fire protection grant program. I have asked Chris Hamilton and Joe to be a part of the call, just to talk about what a sprinkler system brings to a building. So they'll go ahead and start. I'll have Chris introduce Joe. He's calling in by phone. And from there, then we'll ask Andrew Horn, the village attorney, who researched the legality of being able to use some tax revenue as a grant opportunity for business owners. So Chris Hamilton, having said that, I'll turn it over to you. And I have also hit the button that allows Joe to talk. We might have, I think he has to hit *6 on his phone, but I'll turn it over to you, Chris.
Okay, Joe, you need to hit *6 on your phone so you'll be able to talk. So I'm Chris Hamilton, and I am with the CMCC when you're building inspections now, building electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and we do your zoning. Joe Israel is our building official, and he carries the building inspections, plumbing inspections, and mechanical inspections. The mechanical inspections, and part of that will be plumbing, is where your fire suppression comes in. So Joe, maybe Jim can explain to you what they're looking at. They want to see the advantages of having fire sprinkler in their downtown buildings, which would include first floor and second floor, especially if there is residential.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
the biggest advantage to that is your beautiful downtown survives a catastrophe in the event of one. Last weekend in Lapeer County, Lapeer, Michigan, you can Google it. It was the second time in a year they've had a downtown fire. This one wiped out 15 residential apartments on the second floor, displaced everybody, and it took out 5 to 6 commercial businesses on the first floor. Because of the way these old buildings are constructed with balloon framing, heavy timber, no fire stopping, it creates a huge disadvantage and total loss generally of all buildings, structures, and every occupant and or goods and products inside. These particular ones in Lapeer have 6 feet of water in all the basements from the amount of water used from the fire trucks to put out a fire that just takes over your whole downtown. The advantage to a business owner on this program, especially with the Vicksburg, I think it was a $3,500 fee to get the water into your building. That's very, very low cost. I mean, dollars and cents wise, you're looking at less than a used car. To do the fire sprinklers inside of a building, it then is easier to retrofit your old buildings without having to get into structural changes and or firewalls, fire separations, fire barriers to have mixed use occupancies, which typically would be first floor commercial, mercantile, retail, basement storage areas, and second floor either mercantile business or residential. Now, the highest hazards are other than owner occupied buildings. Obviously, if an owner is occupying a building, they have intimate knowledge and details of exactly what's going on, on all floors at most all times. When you add to the mix of it other occupants or, transients, somebody coming in and using your place of business, using your restroom, something like that, then you have a greater risk. But as far as fire sprinklers, it should be in everybody's best interest to jump on board with it. Typically costs, which I'm not in the contracting business, but typically costs are around $5 a square foot to then put all the piping inside of a building, which, in today's market, $5 a square foot is not a lot of money. But that's the advantages for you folks. And I would stress, if anybody has a pencil and paper there, my cell phone direct is 313-530-2569, and I'm in that area 2 to 3 times a week, and I would be more than happy, to walk through something with somebody to show you what you have and what's possible. And if I could be of any other assistance anywhere along the line, that's my role. I'd be glad to do it.
Appreciate those comments, Joe. How do you want to handle this, Mr. Schenkel? If people have questions now, have Mr. Horn speak to the legalities of utilizing this tax revenue to set up a grant and take questions at the end, or?
Let's go ahead and have questions for right now. I'm drawing a blank on his name.
So Joe is, and Chris Hamilton. So if anyone has questions, reference the advantages to placing the ability to get a 4-inch water main to a building to be sprinklered, if you raise your hand.
Say that again, Jim?
If you have a question, John, go ahead and ask it if Mr. Schenkel's okay.
Yeah, Mr. DeVault?
What I'm wondering is if we have the suppression or the fire line brought into the building, it would be our responsibility to hook up afterwards, correct?
That would be correct.
But the $3,500, just stating the $3,500 is what it costs to bring the line to the building.
No, that it's the cost is specific to each independent building. It depends what street the building's located on, distance away from a water main, but we will put those figures direct to a business owner.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I can tell you it's the cost without the grant on the minimum end, I believe, is right around 5,300, 5,500, and then as high as 7,500, depending upon the location. Again, that's without using any grant dollars.
Gotcha.
Is there any other questions for the building inspector?
I think there's a hand up in the attendees, Jim.
And that's it's your prerogative to, if you wish to, take questions from the audience. That's completely your prerogative as a chair.
Yeah.
Chairman Schenkel, this is Don Wartella. I have a question, if I could, please.
Sure.
This is either of Joe or Chris. Are there engineering firms locally, maybe Grand Rapids being locally, that are proficient in the design, and then contractors proficient in the installation of these? Or are we going to look at somebody else out of state, or is that?
No, it's all tied. This is a question for staff. This is tied to the current project, Don. The village engineer has been involved on the engineering and the contractor that is putting in the water main. We do not want to get into a situation where we have multiple contractors touching the water main and have to just have a resolution if there's a concern with warranty or that. So the village has the engineers and contractors in place.
Excellent, thank you.
And Mike Frederick, I believe your hand was up and Chair Schenkel said to go ahead and ask.
Yeah, I just was gonna, the question I had was, so for those of us who might not do it now, how does that impact what happens in the future?
Well, and I'm going to take it that you're saying might not even get the stem to your building.
Correct.
What the reason we're motivated to do this is because this is the first time since 1985 that these roads have been torn up and we've exposed the water main. And with putting about $2 million worth of new concrete downtown, we would not want to, a few years from now, be granting the ability to hook up, because it would require that business owner to cut up the new streetscapes, including the sidewalks and roadway. So that's why we're motivated to do it now.
And I agree with that. I just thought it was important for everybody to hear that. It would be quite a daunting task. For example, my property on Prairie Street is the farthest away from the water main. So I would have to cut up the sidewalk and the asphalt road, the first maybe 2/3 of it, in order to hook into the water main and have the ability to have fire suppression. So another reason why I'm in favor of it, because if we're going to spend all this money on all these improvements now for asphalt and hardscape and landscape, to go back later and add individual businesses would make that look pretty fragmented, if you will. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep, thanks, Mike. If we're good with it, Mr. Schenkel, I'd like to have Mr. Horn go ahead and speak on the research we asked him to conduct, reference the utilizing of the tax revenue stream we're talking about tonight.
Thanks, Jim. So yeah, I spoke previously with Jim on this matter. He asked me to look into the potential expenditure of DDA funds, kind of as a grant program for the installation of these water mains or the stems from the water main. 125, or excuse me, statute 125.4207 makes it pretty clear that the DDA board can do something like this. It says it can plan, propose the construction, renovation, repair, remodeling, rehabilitation, restoration, preservation, or reconstruction of a public facility, an existing building, or multiple family dwelling unit, which may be necessary or appropriate to the execution of a plan, which in the opinion of the board aids in the economic growth of the downtown district. By installation of the sprinklers, you're definitely not going to see a decrease in the economic value of these buildings by any means. It'd obviously be an economic growth. Additionally, there's other portions of the statute that says the DDA board can improve land and construct, reconstruct, rehabilitate, and so on within the downtown district for the use in whole or in part of any public or private person. I know that was one of the original concerns. Well, can you do this with private properties? I think that the statute's pretty straightforward with the Tax Increment Financing Act. And then we went ahead and looked up other municipalities that have done something like this. The Village of Spring Lake did something almost identical to this, where they gave business owners or property owners in the downtown district matching grants. And we're able to aid in the cost for the sprinkler systems. Other townships we found, or other DDAs we found, actually paid for all the fire services and similar items. So just talking from a legal standpoint on expenditures, we told Jim you're pretty much in the clear on this one. So
once we looked and we analyzed as well, we're talking about the water system. So we analyzed our water system finances as well, and not wanting to use those proprietary funds that could potentially impact rates for the citizens. We looked at the available dollars, and that's where the summary that we provided to this board as it would relate to this grant would have, excuse me, would have a pool of $60,000 available. The grant, there are approximately a little over 30 properties that could be eligible. The building owners would have 4 weeks to decide if they would submit a grant request for fire protection stems to be delivered to within 3 feet of their building. In doing so, they're going to have to make a deposit of 20% of the cost. At that point, staff will evaluate the available funds, and it will be an amount not to exceed 60% of the cost with the available money. Once we know the total number of building owners willing to invest what will be at minimum 40% of their own money. And I'm going to highlight that only gets to within those 3 feet of the building. The building owners will have 100% of the cost to get inside the building. And then ultimately, as Mr. Israel explained, about $5 a square foot of their totality of the building to eventually cover it and sprinkle will be on the building owners as well. So it'll be a substantial investment. I think we've covered sometimes on the phone and then different computers, the main highlights of what this grant would be. So I'll pause there, Mr. Schenkel, if you want to facilitate, if there's questions on the overall grant. And then I felt I'd, if however you want to proceed, if we want to make a motion to support the grant on items 7B and then move to the budget as 7C.
Yeah, let's ask for questions for Mr. Horn. And then once we conclude with that, we'll call for a motion on 7B. So are there any questions from the commission for Mr. Horn?
No, but I have for Mr. Mallory.
Sure, Mr. Hunt.
The gentleman that was quoting on the sprinkler systems. Now, was that $5 a square foot to installing the sprinkler system, or?
Yeah, I mean, that's on average. He's citing an industry high altitude standard.
Okay.
Basically, our point to the board is each building owner is going to have their own cost to complete the sprinkler system inside the building. So it might depend upon the size of the building, could be anywhere from $7,000 to $20,000.
Okay.
You have a question. If you could use the raise hand function on your Zoom app, we'll go to Mr. Newman right now.
Good evening. I just had a couple questions, and I don't know if this is for you, Andrew, or for Mr. Mallory. Reading through the grant presentation info that was sent out, is showing the anticipated cost between $5,500 and $7,500. It also specifies that grants are only going to be offered for owners of 2-story buildings, of which in that property area on Prairie Street and Main Street, there are only 24, not 31. I just wanted to make sure that all of the building owners were going to be offered that same grant. The other thing is, when we had discussed this initially, was trying to offset the difference in cost between the grants for the properties on Prairie Street and the cost of properties on Main Street because of the difference in the project and the distance from the water line. So if we're going to offer it to everybody, then I want to make sure that right now, as I'm reading that paper, Rise and Dine is not included. Frederick's Construction is not included. You know, there's a number of buildings that are not included in grant eligibility according to this paperwork.
Yeah, it would be to the building. So the 2-story, we were just highlighting the residential, but if a single story wanted to invest in this, they would be allowed to submit the grant as well.
Oh, and that's where then that makes sense where the 31 properties come in, because the numbers didn't quite add up.
Any other questions?
I think, yeah, Chris's hand was up from before. Now he's taking it down.
I didn't realize.
Mr. Duvall. Oh, Mr. Duvall.
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Mallory. I know you're not an engineer, Jim. When they bring that line to 3 feet from the building, how do they connect, or I know you're not an engineer, but how would they connect it without tearing up the street again?
Well, once we get into the commitment from the building owners, we sent communication to the contractor if they would take it all the way into a building. Okay. So we're going to get that answer. If by chance they don't, we'll have to secure a contractor that takes it from that 3 feet inside the building. Okay. They took it inside at the residential homes in Prairie Street. So, but I have to await their answer, and we'll be in front of them tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Well, as Mr. Frederick had said, we're going to have a beautiful new downtown, and we don't want potholes or holes dug up again if we have to dig into them. So, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mr. Horn or staff?
Mr. Cox might have a question. I'm not sure on that though.
I don't. I've been listening in, and I agree that this is a great opportunity to do this.
Seeing if there aren't any other questions, Mr. Schenkel, are you okay if a member of the board wishes to make a motion on this 7B to approve this grant opportunity?
Yeah, so just to be clear, it is the approval of the grant as proposed.
Correct, and I think Mr. Newman makes a good point, just so in case that the downtown, and when we say downtown, it's where we're opening the roads, exposing the water main. So basically from on Prairie Street, from Kalamazoo to Main Street from Prairie Street to the north side of Washington. And we'll be contacting each of those business owners. It'll be the month of August that we report all the details back to the DDA in this board on the amount of grants, et cetera, that were submitted for. So.
Okay. Mr. Newman.
Yes, I just was curious, with this motion, are we making a motion to approve the grant, or are we making a motion to approve the village going ahead with developing the grant language and beginning to award the grant? Is this a two-part process with the, like Mr. Mallory saying that the final information will come in August with amount of money that we'll be approving, or are we okaying the DDA spending not to exceed $60,000 to develop a grant program to fund sprinkler infrastructure for downtown businesses?
Yeah, this grant would approve village staff to utilize up to $60,000 to set up a grant program for fire protection stems to be taken to within 3 feet of the building. The amount will not exceed 60% of the total cost of each individual location. Within that, in the overall village purchasing policy and approval policy, that 60% would be in a limit that the village manager could approve under the DDA bylaws. It could potentially be more than $1,000. There's a difference from 1,000 and 5,000. So specific to Mr. Newman's question is, it's a two-pronged approval. It approves the staff to expend up to $60,000 within this grant program. And it also approves the staff to approach the business owners and set up each of those individual grant amounts based on the amount that it cost to take the stem to the building and the 60% ceiling level. What would be reported back in August are the results. There's not enough there. We would not be coming back for secondary approval on this item.
Thank you.
There are no further questions. I'll call for a motion on agenda item 7B.
This is DeBalt. I would like to make the motion to approve the staff of organizing the sprinkler grant for the DDA.
All right.
I will support that. It's member Newman.
Newman?
Yep.
Okay, we have motion from DeBalt, support from Newman. And we'll do a roll call vote. Secretary DeBalt.
Schenkel?
Yes.
Mucha?
Yeah.
Cox,
Yes.
Manchester? I got it.
Yes.
Hunt? I see it. Newman,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Wortella,
Don, you're on mute.
Wortella. I think he's still there. There you go.
Yes, this is Wortella, yes.
Thank you.
All right.
DeVault, yes.
Okay. Motion passes.
Okay, having said that, if you're okay with it, Mr. Schenk, I'd like to thank Chris Hamilton, Joe Israel, and Andrew Horn for participating, making themselves available on a Friday night, but
Monday.
Monday night, yeah, tell me about it.
I wish it was Friday.
No.
Yeah, me too.
Amen.
But I'd like to go ahead and excuse them and
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for your
Yeah,
time.
thank you very much. And if there's anything I can do, anybody, any questions ever, get a hold of myself or the office.
thanks a lot, Joe, appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right,
Thanks,
good, everybody.
All right, we do have agenda item number 7C. And that is the 2021-22 fiscal year budget.
Correct, and what we're looking for is a support and approval. And what we do then is implement this in the overall budget presentation to the council that will be in front of the council June 28th of this month. I think it's a unique year. Many members I spoke to individually when I had one-on-one conversations about needs, wants, and wishes, spoke about the infrastructure project and the fact that, you know, for a substantial portion, at least half of this fiscal year we're entering, the downtown will be impacted by the infrastructure, and desiring to really have comments after they see the new streetscape, see all the new furnishings that come with that, what the actual needs are going into the future. So I envision conversations taking place both in the third and fourth quarter next year as that project is completed, maybe on some specifics. And I also anticipate a very good conversation going into the 22-23 fiscal year of what the priorities are within our downtown area. But I have supplied to the Planning Commission a 3-year on the specifics and the property taxes that were received dollar amount wise. It was the 2020, it says 20-22. I just noticed that. Apologize, it's the fiscal year we're currently in that we received $58,361. I always want to make note and remind the commission, you'll see from the County of Kalamazoo, $1,702.45. That's because a couple businesses haven't paid their taxes. So we get that reimbursed from the county to make us whole, but we normally would not be receiving any type of DDA tax revenue from the county. So I supplied the revenue. I cited the DDA plan that is on record of different, and when you look at that plan, it had and this was done in 2014, a phase 1 development. And I talk about the priorities that are impacted within these fiscal years. Our first 4 priorities are complete new streetscapes on Main and Prairie Street. That was done without the need to use DDA dollars, basically saving those dollars for other investment opportunities. We did talk about the grant that has been approved. I've identified where there's the carry forward money there will be a grant request to the Vicksburg Foundation, and then looking at the utilization of $25,000 of 21-22 fiscal year revenue to come up with that 60 grand. High altitude, and I'll be able to answer any specific questions a member might have, but you can see where administrative services, the economic development, I believe it'll be a key year as we go after January 1st into an overall marketing concept for the village. Have again put some money in streetscapes. I think additional furniture could possibly be needed, as well as dog or waste stations. Of note, under the Parks and Recreation Oswalt Park, the council has approved a pretty vigorous fundraising campaign of $225,000 that former village president Bill Adams will be spearheading, looking to have a total makeover of Oswalt Park. We did set aside last year, we assigned $12,500 to Oswalt Park improvements. We've added an additional $5,000 of new fiscal year revenue to make the total $17,500. And we'll report back, those things will all come back in front of this board. If that money actually is needed, it would be the last in line money. Our hope is to raise the total cost of this project in fundraising. We also, the facade loan program, I put will evaluate in the second quarter, and that basically after August and the completion of this fire suppression grant opportunity, we'll reevaluate the money that's remaining. And we anticipate coming in either the October or November meetings back to this board with a designed facade loan program where we know the totality of money that's available, and then can get to the businesses looking for maybe a spring construction season, or at that point, depending upon the amount of money, we might carry it forward into the next fiscal year and just add to it. We evaluated the staff time. This fiscal year we're currently in, we transferred $4,000. We are recommending $6,000 to be transferred to the general fund. Again, that's a pretty good bargain utilizing DDA money, be it that we and Siegfried Crandall do all the finances and the time spent involving the DDA. I think it's worth note as well, when we talk about transferring, it moves from DDA tax revenue money to the general fund. So it's unrestricted. If we were outsourcing services, which the last year the DDA did was about $15,000, that goes to the private sector and the village can't reuse it. By us using this municipal accounting, we will be able to use that $6,000 again as it sits in the general fund. But I think if you're comfortable with it, Mr. Schenkel, I know that was a pretty high altitude, but I'll answer any specific questions a board member might have.
Yeah, just like to remind everyone that if you do have a question, please use the raise hand function. Wave your mouse over your screen. It's down in the bottom, right in the middle. That would be helpful to keep things orderly. Or raise your hand on the screen, as Mr. DeBolt is.
Thank you. So what I understood is we're suspending the facade grant program until we know if we have any monies that is available at the end of August.
Well, I envision that we'll utilize, yes, but we'll come back to this board with staff recommendations at the November meeting, the second Monday in November, with the specifics of what the recommendations, but based on the available money, yes.
Okay, the reason I mentioned that is it's not been, a grant was brought to my attention for this next fiscal year that may be starting in late June and July due to the availability of working. And that I wanted to meet, which I will be meeting with the other two members of the DDA committee, and either presenting this back to the board in July. I don't know if you can answer a question for me there, Jim.
I can answer that staff hasn't recommended to place any dollars in that account. If we open a facade grant program, it would need to be open, not just to someone who's approached us. The program needs not only this board, but ultimately the council on June 28th. So for a fiscal year that starts July 1, there's different options that could be done. In November, we could retro look at the work that was done and the cost, and if it met the eligibility, and if the board so desired, make it retroactive. But
No, that answered my question.
okay.
Any other questions for staff? So Jim, just to confirm again, the motion is a motion of support or approval?
Approval, because it's gonna from here, it will need council approval as well.
Okay. If there are no further questions, I'll call for a motion on agenda item number 7C. Would anyone like to entertain that motion?
This is Rick Manchester. I'll make a motion to support it as it is.
This is Newman. I will support.
All right, we have a motion from Manchester and support from Newman. Any further discussion?
Ms. DeBalt, are we approving this budget? Is that what we are approving?
Yes.
Yes, the proposed budget.
The proposed budget to be presented to the council, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Secretary DeVault, can you take roll call, please?
Schenkel,
Yes.
Mucha?
Yep.
Cox,
Yes.
Manchester,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes,
Newman,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Portella,
Yes.
DeBalt, yes.
Okay. Motion is carried. I gotta flip back here to my agenda. I'm pretty sure we're wrapping up here.
I can try to get it to.
Yeah, thank you. All right, agenda item number 8, member comments. Does anyone have any comments from this commission?
This is member Wortella. I have a comment concerning some signing for Vicksburg. The Michigan DOT has approved the installation of what they call distance and direction signs on northbound and southbound US 131 and Schoolcraft, directing traffic towards Vicksburg. So the signs would say Vicksburg 6 with an arrow pointing in the correct direction. There's a construction project that's going to be happening on 131 next year, and those signs will be installed at that time. There's no cost to the village of Vicksburg. It's all part of that project.
listen to this and you.
And also, in working with the MDOT person, she's going to be working directly with Ms. Coney concerning the mill. The mill is a historical site, and it appears that signing would also be eligible on 131 and Schoolcraft for the mill.
Great. Thank you for that update, Mr. Wortell. Any other member comments? I'd just like to say thanks to Jim and the staff for kind of putting together the plan for the water hookups for fire abatement and presenting that information to us and finding innovative ways to help business owners improve their properties, improve our downtown, make it safer and a more pleasurable environment for people to enjoy. So thank you for that. That you put into that.
Thank you.
All right. Hearing no further comments, I will adjourn this meeting at 7:57 for our notes. Everyone, have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Good evening, folks.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.